Well, hey, everybody. Thanks again for joining us with a Monday Minute with Pastor Mike. And during this series, we've been looking at 2 Peter chapter 1, where Peter boldly tells us how we are to grow in our faith. 2 weeks ago, we talked about the importance of not going to another level, but that we grow to another level. Last week, we talked about the importance of goodness, which is character. Does our actions line up with what we share? Well, today we're going to talk about the second part of what Peter shares. He says, don't just grow in character or goodness, but also another area that we have to grow in is this area of knowledge. Now, the greatest thing about knowledge is that you don't have to be born wise in order to grow in knowledge. It's not about your IQ score or your college degree or your SAT score. Knowledge has nothing to do with intellect. It's deeper than that. And the greatest thing about knowledge is it can be intentional. Now, I remember when I was a young college student, my then president of the college spoke at a chapel service, and he said, if you don't like to read books, then ministry might not be for you. Now, I remember when I heard this, I was terrified because I hated reading books. In fact, the only books that I read at the time was from SparkNotes.com, which was Cliff Notes version of SparkNotes. And so I determined that day to read a few books that summer. I set out to read 2 books, ended up reading 10 books that summer. To date, I've read over 300 books from cover to cover. Now, it's been important for me to read because I grow in knowledge. And I think the same is true for you. We live in the age of information. We live with technology at our fingertips, and we can access anything, anywhere, at any point. We have no excuse to grow in knowledge or not to grow in knowledge. So the question you've got to ask yourself is, how can I grow in knowledge today? In fact, when it looks to this, even when it comes to the Bible, don't just read the Bible alone. Get a commentary. Listen to a podcast. Join a Bible study or a small group to help you dive it a little bit deeper. But the question I want to leave you today is, what can you do to grow in knowledge this week? What can you do to grow deeper in your faith through knowledge this week? Take a step forward, move the needle, and grow in knowledge this week.